and blessings. This is Marqueshia for those of you who are new, and those of you who are not, welcome back. In this video, I'm sharing how I make a veggie sandwich, and I'm going to show you two different ways to make them. So the first one, I'm starting out with eggplants, zucchini, tricolor peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes, and I'm going to be doing these in the oven. And I'm just slicing the portobello mushrooms down to a nice size. You can slice them the size that you want, and you really can use any veggies that you want. The zucchini, I'm slicing them long ways because in my mind I'm thinking it will be easier for me to put them on the ciabatta bread. That's my bread of choice, but you can use any bread that you like. I was just really in the mood for a veggie sandwich, and I wanted to try something different than the normal way that I make them. And this is eggplant. I don't cook with this too often, but I do eat it at restaurants when I go out. So I'm just slicing it the long way as well. And later in the video, you guys are going to see the mistake that I made with this. And I'm just going ahead cutting up the veggies into the size that I like for me to get them ready to go into the oven. This is a great way to use up any leftover veggies that you may have in the refrigerator that you don't want to throw out, because you can use any vegetables that you want. This is just what I had, and this is what everything looks like. That's eggplant, tricolor peppers, zucchinis, portobello mushrooms, cherry tomatoes, and red onions. When I roast my vegetables, I always line my pan with parchment paper. It just makes the cleanup easier. I normally do it at about 375 degrees, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, depending on, what I'm roasting. And I always flip it halfway through, no matter what it is I do. Onions, they cook pretty fast. So right here, I'm just pretty much figuring out how I'm going to lay everything out in the pan. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just making it do what it do. And I'm using grapeseed oil, and I'm just going to make sure that everything is fully covered, and you want to make sure that it's covered on both sides. And then you want to season it. I use Himalayan pink salt, onion powder, garlic powder, fresh cracked black pepper, and smoked paprika. And that's some dried Italian herbs. And you want to flip it and do the other side. Now this is where I messed up. I should not have used that much oil on the eggplant. It made them soggy.
Perfect.
And with the mushrooms, to me, the longer you marinate them, the better, but do what you like. I use the same seasonings that I used on the vegetables. The only thing extra that I added was tamari sauce and balsamic vinegar. And I just made sure to rub them down really, really good so that everything gets into the mushrooms, because mushrooms pretty much absorb the flavor of anything that you put on them. And I roast these separate because mushrooms make a lot of liquid, and you know, it's just easier to roast them in a pan by themselves. And this is pretty much what everything looks like once it's done. These are the eggplants, the tricolor peppers, and the red onions. And as you see, even though the eggplant was a little too oily, it still was good. I would not lie to you guys. I still like it, but next time I won't use as much oil. And I toasted my ciabatta bread. on a flat top griddle. and I added some roasted red pepper hummus, and that's some BioLife provolone cheese. And if you make this sandwich, I'm going to suggest that you use less oil on your eggplant. And also, a little later on in the video, you're going to see me adding vegan mayo and the Publix Boar's Head submarine dressing. I would leave both of those off. And I would also melt my vegan cheese in the oven before I add the roasted red pepper hummus, because I put my sandwich in the oven afterwards, and I just think I had a little too much going on. But the sandwich was still good. I enjoyed it. Everything that I put on it, I like. Just next time, instead of using the vegan mayo and the Boar's Head submarine dressing, I just will stick with the roasted red peppers and use less oil on my eggplants, and I'll also melt the cheese on my ciabatta bread in the oven before I build the sandwich. And now I'm adding some kale, and this is that Boar's Head submarine dressing that I suggest you guys leave off this particular sandwich, and the white stuff is the vegan mayo. But overall, the sandwich is really good just with those few changes. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't want to like show you guys something that I made and maybe like, ooh, it's so good, and y'all taste it and be like, oh heck no, it was oily to me. Those were just a few changes that I would make, and this is how it ended up looking. But it still was pretty good if you were to ask me. Now, the second way that I cooked my sandwich was using my griddle, and this is the way that I cook it all the time, so I knew this was going to be good. I'm using the portobello mushroom caps, and I don't like the gills, so I remove it. But if you like it, please feel free to leave it on there. And I use the same seasonings that I used on the first sandwich, and I just make sure that I rub it in and let it marinate at least 30 minutes to an hour. The longer the better. And I cut these into thick steak strip sizes. I'm sorry I didn't record that. And I marinated them inside of a Ziploc bag in the refrigerator. And I'm just putting down some vegan butter on my griddle so that I can toast the ciabatta bread, and I'm cutting the bread in half. And I'm pretty much toasting it up. Some of this is like self-explanatory. I'm sorry, you guys. I hope this isn't boring you all. And this is what it looks like. And the reason why I make these videos is because on Instagram, people ask me how I make the sandwiches. So this is just an easy way for my family to kind of see it in real time, because I'm not so good at making those shorts. And this is what the mushrooms look like after they've been marinating. And I leave them alone. When I put them down on the griddle, I let them stay until I'm ready to flip them. That's how you get that good char on them. And I'm putting down some onions, and some red onions, and some tricolor peppers. And this day I used avocado oil. And I'm just gonna let everything cook until it browns. You see how they look? That's how you get that good crisp on your mushrooms. You just let them stay. Like they say, set it and forget it. Just set it and forget it. And it takes probably about, I don't know, depending on how high you have your griddle, this takes no longer than, 15-20 minutes for you to grill up everything in order to make your sandwich. And this is what everything looks like once it's done. These are the mushrooms, the tricolor peppers, and the red onions. And now I'm going to build the sandwiches. I'm using some vegan mayo. And both of these vegan cheeses is BioLife. One is the white cheddar, and one is some leftover mozzarella that I had in the fridge. This is yellow mustard. And I toasted the sandwiches to melt the cheese, and I'm adding on some kale, cherry tomatoes, pickles. And now I'm going to pretty much build the sandwich. This way is the way that I normally do it on the griddle, but cooking it in the oven is a lazy way, and that way was good as well. If I had to choose, I would say they both are delicious as long as you roast the vegetables properly. And that's pretty much it. Like always, I want to tell you guys, thank you for watching my videos. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. And remember, taking control of your spiritual, physical, and mental health does take balls, and it's a lifestyle. Peace.